turn off your AC. And if you know anyone who might be maybe driving to work right now, give them a call. Tell them this includes them as well until they can get back home and then really be in that shelter in place. But tell them to keep the windows up, shut the sunroof, turn off the AC in the car. I know it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but it's better to not be breathing in any chemicals that could be released in the air.
Steph, I don't know if you saw that shot when Air 11 was really zoomed in there. I don't know if I saw the leak or if that was water just coming off of the spray, but you definitely saw some type of fluid either coming out. And again, I don't know if it was the water or if it was some type of leak with inside. But now that we've got a broader shot, I do like the fact that we're not seeing smoke. So it'll be interesting if this is just a leak rather than a fire that was sparked. Now, if there was, we would be able to see that smoke again well into the atmosphere just because cloud cover is relatively high this morning. I was hoping maybe we would have seen some of those clouds with a little bit of shower activity around, but we're not. It looks extremely dry across the area now that we've got a big broad view from Air 11 this morning.
Yeah, and it looks like Air 11 already pulling back. Perhaps they know more information that maybe this is not as big of a deal as it sounds, but it looks like they might be zooming into. All right, it looks like the road is shut down. Again, folks, thanks for bearing with us here. We are just getting initial information. What I can tell you is that this is at Dow Chemical's Bayport facility, and it happened, this incident, whatever it was, we just arrived on the scene. So if there was a flare-up or a fire of any sort, we did not catch that with Air 11. This plant is just west of Highway 146 and south of Fairmont Parkway. It's unclear if that is Fairmont Parkway, and our producers are in the booth joining us live, and they are giving us new information when they get it. So we are working to learn as far as what chemicals they produce at the Dow Chemical facility there in the LaPorte area. What I can tell you, folks, if you are new to this area, we have what we call kind of refinery row off 225 and off the East Freeway. There are a lot of chemical plants in that region. A lot of people work in that region. We have had several chemical plant fires in the last few years. So the fire departments in that area well versed in how to handle things like this. Okay, we are getting some new information. If you'll bear with me, and a producer in the booth, Wiley, if you could repeat that so I could get this information out. LaPorte Emergency Management. Okay. Okay, you're taking a look here. It's kind of hard to read this and tell you folks, but it looks like LaPorte Fire Department has issued an evacuation in a half-mile radius around a portion of Bay Area Boulevard. They're telling folks to evacuate immediately and follow instructions of first responders in that area. So if you take a look at the areas that they're telling you, it looks like it surrounds a north part of Fairmont Parkway by the Goodyear Bayport chemical plant, and then Dow Chemical, which is currently dealing with this incident. So again, LaPorte Fire Department has issued an evacuation with a half-mile radius around Bay Area Boulevard.
And Steph, if we're talking about chemicals, maybe they're, again, being really proactive in this situation where those chemicals could have some type of reaction and then it could create a fire. We don't exactly know. This is from a tweet from the LaPorte Emergency Management. And so, again, all of this is breaking. We're kind of learning about this just with you. I know as far as conditions around the area, winds are really calm right now. Winds are out of the northeast. So if there would be some type of chemical, or if we would have seen either a flame or some smoke, it would be going from the northeast to the southwest direction, right over the bay there. So again, it would be moving away from 146 from LaPorte to southward movement, but we didn't see that. So again, as far as that chemical goes, I wonder if they're being extremely proactive with the potential of some type of, are they thinking that this could have explosive? I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, because when we deal with incidents like this, there are two major concerns here when we're dealing with chemicals. You've got number one, you've got public safety, and number two, environment. environmental impacts. So again, we are working to learn what kind of chemicals that Dow Chemicals produces there or houses on site. Now, many of the plants in that region, I can tell you, they house various acids like hydrochloric acid, there's ethanol in the area, acetone, and that can be a major, not only skin irritant, but an irritant as far as lungs, eye irritation, things like that. I remember our own Michelle Choi, we sent her live back in 2019, and she was covering the ITC fire, and she was only on scene very far away from that activity that long ago and was really irritated. She was having trouble breathing. I remember that very well, and they were asking people to put on chemical type masks. Do you remember that?
You know what, Steph? I do remember that as well. And just taking a broad view from Air 11, you know, again, there's not any smoke. There isn't anything that is jumping out with these live images that we're getting. But clearly with the shelter in place and then the evacuation order, there has to be something with that leak that obviously they're extremely concerned about. Now, that road was blocked off. They're starting to let people go. But I will tell you, as far as conditions go, you know, this morning we started off with mainly clear skies. Those clouds are starting to build in, so that can trap if something was released into the air, especially at the lower levels of the atmosphere, which we're dealing with at ground level. But winds are really calm right now, so anything that kind of basically is leaking out, it's not going to have much to mix out. There's even already an air quality alert for Harris, Brazoria, and Galveston County in place, and that's just because of kind of the added ozone. When we have these calm winds, you don't get that natural mixing of the lower levels that we typically do. So that already is kind of an issue. And now with this chemical leak, it's just interesting to see that evacuation order that the LaPorte Fire Department issued.
And that's around Bay Area Boulevard. We're going to get that back on the screen for you to talk about what Cheetah was just mentioning there, that evacuation from the LaPorte Fire Department. Now, if you're just joining us, this some sort of chemical leak, we're still getting information there, but we did not see a big plume of smoke that would indicate any sort of explosion or fire. But I do want to walk you folks through this to avoid any panic or fear. When we are dealing with any sort of incident at a chemical facility, do know that on scene they have an emergency protocol in place with their staff. That would be evacuations, that would be when to call 911, and then when you get fire crews or whoever responds involved, that is when we have the good old-fashioned fire inspections where something like that comes into play. So whenever you, let's say you go into an elevator and you see those fire inspection placards, fire crews, fire departments, they go to these chemical facilities and they do those same types of inspections that they would do at maybe your own office, right? Like you would see, as I said, in an elevator. So they know exactly where the exits are. They know exactly where the hazardous chemicals are housed. They know exactly what kind of chemicals they're dealing with. And as I mentioned before, they know exactly whether to use water or foam. Now, water does react with some types of chemicals. They can use it on some, but it would cause a major explosion if they didn't use foam on it and they used water instead. Now, also at these kind of plants, they have water on scene, and some of them also have foam. So that is a very good thing, and that's going to lessen the panic there. So these folks who work there, the fire crews around these areas that would go to a scene like this, they know exactly what they're dealing with. We as the media are just getting initial information, so we only know what we know until more information is released. But we can tell you once again, Cheetah, can you talk again about the weather conditions in this area, because you do know that.
Right. Winds are really calm, really across the area, and if anything, I'm afraid that if something is leaking, it just doesn't really have anywhere to go because that air is so stagnant. You know, when we have a nice breeze in the morning, it can at least kind of help to carry and disperse the air and what could be leaking. Again, we don't really know. We haven't had a lot of information. We're just going off with what the reports that we're getting in here this morning. But you can see the fire department, they've closed the road. That evacuation order is in place. And as far as the weather conditions go, there's not going to be anything that's going to help that out. Now, here's a live look at the radar. You see LaPorte, you see Shore Acres. The reason why I have this zoomed out a little bit, if anything were to leak, it would go from a northeast to a southwest southwest direction. And so it would be areas south of LaPorte that then may have that concern. We don't know what's leaking right now. We don't know what's in the area. Let me show you the big picture. We have those northeast winds, and that's basically right over the LaPorte, Shore Acres area. Very calm across the area. So if anything were to leak, again, it doesn't really have anywhere to go. Now, as far as the temperatures go, because they're saying, hey, turn off your air conditioning. That way you're not letting outside air in. It's already pretty warm out there. We're in the low 80s, so you're not going to be able to do that for, a really long period of the day. Yeah. But Steph, we're, just watching this like you, there's those northeast winds, again, calm at the surface, so that doesn't allow for much movement with the air. So some of that can kind of sink and settle in. So kind of right on top of the LaPorte area. It's not going to have anywhere to go from there.
All right, yeah, and Cheetah, looking at what we're seeing from Air 11, it doesn't appear that there's any residential areas or neighborhoods close to what we're looking at. But again, there's employees and there are workers close by to enough people around that area to issue that shelter in place. So I do want to recap what that means for people who have maybe never experienced a shelter in place. We know thousands of people move every year to Harris County and to the Houston area. So you may be dealing with this for the first time. So a shelter in place is when authorities want you to go inside, shut all the doors and windows, put a towel at that bottom part of your door so you're sealing off any air that may seep through inside the house. Shut off your air conditioning, shut off fans. If you know anyone who is driving in the vicinity, call them to shut all their windows, close any roofs, like maybe if they have the, or if they have a top down, if they're driving on a convertible. Pull over, put that top up, shut off the air conditioning. I know it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but it's better to do that and get yourself home and then deal with being a little hot than dealing with breathing in any irritants. So as far as when the shelter in place would be lifted, I should say, we don't know. So right now it's an until further notice type of a situation. What I can also tell you is dealing with these type of chemical incidents at these types of facilities off 225, off 146, even off the East Freeway, when chemicals are housed on a facility like this, they have several different agencies that will then come and assist in this particular situation. Dow Chemicals, they will have someone from the American Chemistry Council arrive on scene. Hazmat, other places that deal and specialize with environmental impacts, and they will go and they will test the air around that area, and they will let Dow Chemicals know, as well as other local authorities, when a shelter in place can be lifted. So we wait for that. And as we're looking at Air 11 right now, trying to give you a wide view of Dow Chemicals and what's going on in the area based on other types of fires and incidents we've seen before. Again, it is still unclear at this point when we arrived on scene if there was a fire, because Air 11 did not catch that when they arrived on scene about 20 minutes ago. We may just be dealing with a chemical leak, but it is dangerous enough nonetheless to have issued that shelter in place. But we're not seeing any plume of smoke. Cheetah, that is at least some good news.
It is some good news. What I'm also, it's a really broad view here that we're looking at from Air 11, but it looks like they're not spraying the water or the foam anymore. Is that right?
From this wide view, it appears
angle,
that they're not. And you know what? Based on incidents we've covered in the past, there weren't that many fire engines that arrived on scene. Based on what we saw at K-Solve and at ITC, even Port Neches, that was a huge crew of different agencies that arrived on the scene there. So I would assume that that's very good news. Okay, once again, there is some sort of chemical situation going on at Dow Chemicals. There is a shelter in place in the LaPorte area. We are going to continue our coverage on KHOU.com. You'll have all the information there. We will stay on top of this for you and let you know once we hear more. But once again, a shelter in place in LaPorte. We'll be right back.
I know she is.
Stillwater, rated R.
Shop the Rooms to Go store-wide sofa sale going on now. Get big savings
Yeah.
So two guys did it.
Yeah, that was better for the group.
South of our city on Bay Area Boulevard. However, the chemical release impacts our citizens, so the police department is responding to traffic control assignments, and we have shelter in place for some areas of the city and some very limited evacuations as precautionary means just to keep our citizens safe.
You were giving us a little bit of perspective. Tell us about how far away those evacuations are happening from where the plan is to where we are right now.
We're probably a mile and a half from where the plant is now, and I'm guessing a half mile to 3/4 of a mile from the edge of the evacuation zone, the northern edge.
Do we know what it is or what the danger is or the concern, I guess, for the people?
I don't have that information at this time.
Can you talk about the corporation, I guess, where this chemical release is happening?
The information we have, it's near the Dow plant on Bay Area Boulevard.
Have you guys been working with other agencies to get information or assisted?
Our Office of Emergency Management is in conjunction with the other agencies, and our Emergency Operations Center has been stood up to handle the event.
For people out in their homes right now that have these questions, I guess, where are you guys at right now with what do they need to know at home right now?
Well, if they're in the evacuation zone, we have driven through the neighborhoods on our PA systems asking them to leave the area. If they received a shelter-in-place notice, they need to turn off their air conditioners and stay inside until they receive word that the area is now clear. I know that they're performing air monitoring in the area, and as soon as the air is clear and we're certain that the air is safe to breathe, we'll release that information and lift the shelter-in-place notice.
So they were just evacuating that plant, right? The people inside the plant. You guys are just having a shelter in place for that.
No, it's a half-mile radius from the
so
incident site.
Okay.
Now we have a neighborhood that's affected slightly. It's on the north end of the half-mile radius.
You can't talk about the concerns, I guess, with this chemical that's in the air that would prompt an evacuation? Or?
I don't know what the concerns are exactly, so I hate to speak to that.
Do y'all know at this point what chemical it is?
I don't know what the chemical is there. That would be better answered by the fire department.
How are you handling, you probably have already started getting inundated with calls, or what are you telling folks, or how are you managing that?
Well, we have extra people that'll move into the emergency operations centers to handle the phone calls. And yes, anytime there's an event like this, our dispatch center is inundated with calls, people concerned over what's going on, and we just try to give them the best information that we have at the time.
I'm sure there's a lot of collaboration between you all, the fire department, as well as the folks at the...
Absolutely, and surrounding agencies.
Yeah, and trying to figure out exactly what is being released into the...
And the best course of action to get it cleared up as soon as possible.
Okay. Can you talk about what those talks are like? I mean, what are they saying to you guys, I guess, over the plant that they're trying to contain this?
Well, they're not talking to me directly,
okay.
So we're getting filtered information. And again, we're trying to keep our citizens safe. We've got people on traffic control assignments to keep people from driving through the area, keep them out of harm's way, and those that are in their homes here safe.
Do you know what we can expect to get a more, detailed update to, about the chemical, or where you guys are at in evacuation?
I don't know if those answers would ever come from me. Again, it's outside of our jurisdiction, yet the incident affects our jurisdiction in a small way, luckily this morning.
So you guys are basically just doing kind of traffic control and just kind of alerting residents?
Correct.
The situation and telling them to evacuate?
Yes, sir.
So if anybody's at home watching this on TV and they're within that radius, would you say go ahead and evacuate? Or should they wait until...
If they're in the radius, they should have been notified to evacuate, and we would ask them to do so. And hopefully the incident will be over fairly soon and they can return home. If they're in the shelter-in-place area, follow the directions they were given, the robocall, and the information's on also on social media.
How many homes do you think are affected in that direct, people that are shelter-in-place right now? How many homes would you say?
That's hard to say, but the shelter-in-place area, I believe, is east of Bay Area Boulevard and south of Fairmont, so there could be quite a few. The evacuation that we would, and it's not a mandatory evacuation, voluntary evacuation, I would say it's probably less than 10.
Are they just up to themselves as to where to go? Is there a place set up for them to go to? The folks that have
Not at this time, no.
You're just asking them to leave the area. For
Yes.
because you don't expect it to last.
I would hope not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, thank y'all. Y'all were easy on me.
We'll try.
That's okay.
You almost run
So we hope we don't have another.
Okay, I want you to.
Okay.
I'll just, because we were streaming that.
Okay.
Yeah, that
I
was
just
live.
wanted to give you a
Yeah.
fair warning.
So
Okay, you're good.
we hope we don't have another ITC situation.
Sure. Nice.
I don't think that's the case.